Welcome to the Business of Engineering, the official podcast of Element 14, the world's largest online community for makers, engineers and tech professionals. In this series, we're going to be talking to entrepreneurs and business leaders about some of the challenges and opportunities involved with working in the tech sector. I'm John Lucas, and I'm happy to be joined today by Dr. James Gupta, CEO of Synap, Mihaela Gruia, founder and director at Research Retold, Gordon Merrilees, Managing Director of Entrepreneurship at Royal Bank of Scotland, NatWest and Ulster Bank, and Ben Barker, founder and MD at Artemis. Our topic today is building relationships with your customers. As an emerging business, how do you attract and retain clients, and to what extent do long-term customers shape the evolution of your company? So, first of all, would you like to just go around the room and introduce yourselves a little bit?
So Ben Barker, founder of Artemis. So I started Artemis just over 4 years ago, and we specialise in a variety of cold brew coffee products. It's quite a niche part of the market, but we've innovated within it. So we supply all the way from coffee shops, independent coffee shops, to catering companies, all the way through to high-end cocktail bars and restaurants.
Hello, my name is Mihaela Gruia. I'm a data scientist and founder of Research Retold. We are the specialist research communication agency in the UK that specialise in taking long academic research reports and summarising them and transforming them into accessible and visual summaries. I started the company officially in 2017, and in this short span of time we've had a success with over 50 researchers across 7 UK universities, and we're looking to partner up with more universities across the UK.
I am Gordon Merrilees. I'm Managing Director for Entrepreneurship for NatWest, Royal Bank and Ulster Bank. I have the pleasure of leading the bank's strategy on entrepreneurship, which is mainly designed to support and create measurably more entrepreneurs, powering UK businesses to start, to scale and to succeed. And my team and I support those businesses across the whole of the UK, mainly through 12 physical hubs that we have across the main UK cities, regionally across the UK.
Hi, I'm James Gupta. I'm the founder of Synap. Synap is an intelligent online training platform. We started off as a way to train medical students and doctors in a more engaging, mobile-friendly way. What we do is break down the training topics people are going to have to go through into a chunk that they can practice in just 5 or 10 minutes, wherever they happen to be at the time. And then in the background, we look at what they're doing well, what they need more help with, and use that to create a personalised learning plan for them. So as I said, started off in medicine, have since branched out into law, and now we work with a lot of startups and corporates as well who are looking to help train their employees either for various regulations or just to generally upskill their staff so that they can learn more effectively.
Great. So, as I mentioned, we're talking about customers today and building those relationships, particularly with the first customers when you do start out as a new startup or SME. So for the 3 kind of startup leaders, who were your earliest customers in your current business and how did you attract them?
The story of how I started and how I got my first client was as a result of Startup Weekend, which is a weekend competition that happens all over the UK and then the world, actually. So I had to pitch the business idea within 3 minutes, and I didn't win the competition, but one of the people that I was targeting as a customer was in the audience, and they said, I'll be willing to pay you to do your service. Could I be your first customer? I said, yeah, of course, sure. They paid me something like £100 to do a project, which was amazing at the time. So that's kind of the story of the first client, so really just putting myself out there in an opportunity like that.
Yeah, so for us, we were testing the market with all the independents. So in the coffee industry, it's often the independents that kind of lead the industry with the newest innovations and kind of the newest trends. So we market tested with kind of like the industry leaders that were the independents, and they became our first customers. So we were dealing with a lot of small businesses rather than kind of like few large companies.
So we pivoted essentially. So we went from being just a student sort of like hobby project that we'd mainly made for myself, my co-founder and people in our class, to then opening up to more students, and then eventually about a year ago sort of pivoting and seeing the interest that we would have going to universities, schools and companies directly. Our first client on that was My Taxi, which is like a Daimler-owned taxi booking app and service across a couple of different European cities. That radically changed the way that we thought about the business when we realised that we could build a relationship up with companies and then bring them in fairly early, then have them inform our product strategy and roadmap going forward. So that's been a really interesting couple of months for us.
And At that early stage when you're looking for your first customers, how specific was your idea of what your kind of target audience was going to be? And did that turn out to be accurate, or did it change or evolve over time?
I think for me, I had a hypothesis of who the ideal client was going to be, and obviously that was tested in the real world with this first customer, and then I tried to arrange more conversations with people who were in similar positions just to test out whether there was a bigger need than obviously just one lucky person who happened to see my pitch. And so my assumption ended up being correct throughout the course of the business. That is our main customer persona, that is the one that we're targeting for our projects.
So for us, we had a really 100% like a really defined kind of customer in mind, but contrasting with Mihaela, ours was wrong. So we went out to the independents, and we still have many independents on board now that are great stockists, but for a scalable business, specifically the product that we launched with was not really the product that we ended up succeeding with. And so with different products come different markets. So it's still a great seller for us today, but it's probably not the prime part of our business anymore.
Yeah, I think our idea of who the customer is just gets more and more refined as we speak to more people, as we bring on new clients, and as we just essentially just A/B test. So when we first started doing things with the businesses, we really didn't know much about how HR and L&D functions worked in different businesses and what the different setups were, what the buying cycles were. Particularly on education products as well, you've got a split between the people who are going to be using your product, which are the people who are doing learning within the company, and the people purchasing it. So yeah, we're still learning. We've got a rough idea now. Like our sweet spot seems to be in regulated companies with 50 or so more staff, either going through the HR team or with an L&D one if they have them, but a lot of companies don't have a particular L&D function. And so that's roughly where we target now, and I think 6 months from now we'll have a better idea maybe of which sort of subcategories to target within that.
And Gordon, as somebody who kind of works a lot with young businesses, what kind of recommendations do you make in terms of identifying those first customers and that really targeted customer market?
It's interesting, a lot of what's been said really resonates. So we've just recently launched a pre-accelerator programme for businesses that are not the scale-up businesses that we support in our hubs, but businesses that are pre-trade, early stage, start-up, so a bit like the experiences that my colleagues had talked about a few minutes ago, and we help them through a number of customer journeys, as been said earlier, around how do they validate their service or product offering, what their customers are what their customer needs are, what they're prepared to pay for that, and then as many has been said before, around how you pivot, iterate and learn and tweak that proposition so that it becomes something that the customers are really looking for. So we provide that support within our pre-accelerator programme and indeed our hubs as well.
And Mihaela, you talked about how you physically went out there and actually met your first customer face-to-face at kind of a marketing networking event. What were your guys' methods early on to kind of meet customers, and has that approach evolved at all as your business has grown?
Yeah, so our first few customers just came from... So by the time we started doing this, we had a couple of thousand people a day visiting the site as students looking for practice material, and a small percentage of those would sort of like filter through because they were looking at something for their company, and before we'd even put up any indication online that we could develop something private and white label for your company, we just got a couple of inquiries a year about it. So that was our first like initial traction on the business side of it, and then we started to sort of like formalise that. So most of the last year for us has been about getting to that sort of like first 10 clients. So it's been a lot of sort of like field sales, going out meeting people, just sort of like using your personal networks and stuff like that. And now over the next year, we're looking to do more of that in an automated way. So getting more people to sign up, being able to speak to us sort of like over Skype or something like that, so that we can essentially scale it from 10 to 100 and then beyond that.
Yeah, for us, kind of polar opposite to both of the other journeys. So we, previous to kind of coming into this hub and the accelerator program, the whole world of pitching was hidden, and it was only once we came in that we kind of learnt all about pitching, and pitches for investment and for business as well. So we went down the route of directly approaching customers, doing field sales to start off with, mainly because we needed validation as well as sales. So it was very much going out to seek opinions as well as sales.
It's interesting because we've learned a lot from working with entrepreneurs in our hubs, and the three key elements that we offer within our hubs are touching on some of the things that have been said by my my colleagues, one of the big areas is the network we provide. So access to supply chain, access to markets, and access to a network that can help grow that business. Money can't buy introductions to whether it's our own customer base as a bank, which entrepreneurs in time tell us that that's much more valuable than any money you can give them. Because if you're getting an opportunity to talk to the head buyer or within that supply chain, then that can really help a business grow. The second area is the community we provide. So this, I'm delighted to say, just happens. So we bring all the entrepreneurs in. There's about 80 odd entrepreneurs in each hub, and that community just builds because you're working alongside like-minded individuals with some similar challenges that each other face. There's some opportunities around skills and expertise that you can offer that you can share with another entrepreneur, and those partnerships and relationships just begin to build. And that community really is invaluable, actually. And then the third area is the coaching that we offer. So, Ben, you talked a bit about that when you talked about pitching. So one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is the ability to deliver a credible and memorable 60-second or beyond pitch. And we cover those key elements that make up that credible, memorable pitch. And we really work with entrepreneurs to hone that and to get it right. And it's interesting you mention that because it's something that everybody can notice. And when you're in amongst I get the pleasure of doing quite a lot of judging, and you can usually tell our entrepreneurs that when they're on stage who've been drilled within that framework, because they're usually pitch perfect, and that's really pleasing to see.
Relating it to the customer experience and kind of how we deal with our customers, I would actually say that if given the choice, I would have learned to pitch before going out and validating my product, because I think the kind of confidence you get from being able to pitch your whole business, concept, product, market, traction, and experience in 60 seconds is so key to being able to win business and get across, in a really short space of time.
And it can be adapted, can't it, for different scenarios? Exactly. I mean, you've talked about winning customers, but equally it can be adapted for securing funding and investment.
Yeah, well, when people talk about a pitch, typically I think that's what startups are thinking about. But yeah, it's also what you do at a networking event. If someone asks, so what do you do? And then potentially looking for business, you've got to pitch to journalists, potential employees and partners and all the rest of it. So you'll find yourself doing it a lot, and 80% of it will be the same, then you tweak it for the particular audience.
It's funny, James, you say that, because one of the things we've done as a bank, we've learned that actually what we work with our entrepreneurs on and what they teach us and we teach them, and we learn together, actually there's a real need for it back in the bank. So we've created our own academy where we teach our staff, our colleagues, how to pitch. Sure. So we use the same 7 key tenets that make up a memorable and credible pitch, but we take our staff and our colleagues through that. Because whether you're pitching yourself, as you say, when you go to a networking event, or you're pitching for investment, or you're pitching for new clients, or actually if you're in the bank and you're just pitching a new business idea to a committee that you just want to back it, and actually you can still use that template. So we use that a lot with our colleagues.
Because fundamentally the skills that you're learning are like how to articulate and put your thoughts in a concise way that holds someone's interest for that amount of time. So that is something that's obviously useful even if you're not running a business, you're working in a job or Absolutely. Whatever it is.
I find it similar to a business plan as well. So when I get asked for, a lot of people say that, what's the first thing you should do when you start a business, and business plan is always the daunting one because it can be a 25-page document or it can be a 1-page document, but the core benefit that you get from doing a business plan is that you break down every part of your business, and I would say that doing a pitch is of a similar kind of level, in terms of what you gain from it.
And a lot of that's as much about the content as it is about the person who's pitching, because inevitably and usually you'll find that not only is the content important, actually the investors or whoever's buying into that pitch buys into the individual themselves, and that then starts to build that trust and that relationship.
So from the perspective of purely attracting customers, you talk about the importance of pitching there. What are some of the most important or valuable kind of places to go and deliver those pitches just from a purely customer attraction related standpoint?
I think it will depend. So we've tried a couple of things, and I think ultimately what we want to do is find like a really scalable and repeatable, predictable marketing channel. So that'd be something like online ads that you can just put a certain amount of money in and know that you're going to get a certain amount out. I think that takes a while to do. So we've been trying to do some sort of like more on the ground sort of stuff in different events. For us, the really big tech events don't really work. They're too general. There's too many people coming in. There's not enough of an interest like in exactly what you do. But industry-specific ones where people are going like around a particular problem. So whether that's like a HR and L&D event, those have worked sort of really well. Or if you're going like deep into one industry like financial services or transport, and you can tailor like the demos that you'll be doing to people. That's done better. And what we find is if we can just have like a 5 or 10 minute chat and a bit of a demo with someone, they sort of like see how easy the platform is to use, and we can talk to them about what their problems are around staff training and sort of like build up that relationship with them. And we've got a much better chance of being able to at least launch a pilot or sell the whole platform to them.
It's interesting what you say, James, because at the very beginning of the business journey, you have this, or at least I had the tendency to, you pitch whatever opportunity you can get your hands on, really, especially because you're just defining what your offering is. You don't quite know exactly who your customers are, so the more people you can talk to, the better. And opportunities may come out of that where ideas that you've never thought about kind of come into your
anything's
horizon.
A bonus, like in the early stages.
Exactly. So it's just like whatever you can get your hands on approach. And I think as I moved along the journey, I realized I wanted to be more targeted as well. And the kind of events that I go to, I would be more aware of who was in the audience and what kind of more specific audience to my products, what specific audience I was talking to, and really try to use my time wisely in the kind of pitching opportunities that I was selecting.
Yeah, because it comes down to like an opportunity cost. So you might go to an event and get 100 people who are sort of interested sign up, but then you've got to go through and qualify and chase up all of those people and stuff like that. Whereas if you get 10 really highly targeted ones, it's obviously better.
I agree. So, I mean, to come back to your question, I think it's just identifying. There's no one space where pitches are, the best for. It's just kind of figuring out at the beginning, testing as much as you can, and then refining where you spend your time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the benefit of it in the early stage is that a pitch prepares you for any scenario. I remember many times when I first started the business where I potentially had opportunities to, I keep saying pitch, but pitch to potential customers, and because I'd not gone through the process of creating a pitch, you just get a bit kind of halted in your own progress and not sure what to say. You're not very colloquial in terms of getting your point across and trying to sell your product. Whereas I think if you have the ability to pitch in any scenario, people say about the elevator pitch. I often, when we're doing sales, just pick 1 or 2 lines out of the pitch just to use in conversation.
Yeah, so if you're anything like what we do, you end up rapidly A/B testing, because you sort of like end up just varying the way that you do it and see what lands with different customers, what the sort of like buzzwords in their industry are. So we've learned just by speaking to anyone that you can, what gets people lost, what really delivers the message, and it's just improving organically as a result of that.
There's a big thing about knowing your audience, isn't there, as well, isn't it? And I do know lots of entrepreneurs have 3, 4, 5 different pitches that they'll use depending on the scenario.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's a bit like you said there, Ben.
Yeah.
It's the ask at the end. Yeah. So we kept kind of 3/4 of it the exact same, and then the last part where it's specific to the audience in terms of what we want to get out of it, or what we're asking for, or kind of what we need from someone.
And in terms of other ways of reaching kind of an audience early on in a business's career outside of kind of direct networking, so there's online marketing, maybe do direct telesales, etc. Do they kind of evolve from the direct networking, or are they things you picked up on early on as well? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of so direct networking, things like that. Then other things, if you've got any sort of like online or tech sort of like business, I think the businesses that I tend to buy from online are the ones who've established themselves as like having something interesting and authentic to say in that space, and sort of like content that I trust. So there's no shortage of content on the internet, and lots of companies put out bad content or content that's just been there, said and done before. But then sometimes you've got a company like, some that spring to mind would be like Close.io, who have a sales platform, and the founder is on YouTube and doing a podcast every week talking about like sales success and all of this kind of thing. So by the time I came across a couple of their articles, I sort of like bought into that guy's a founder of the company, and then just thought, right, if this guy's this good, then his platform that he's put his sort of heart and soul into must be good as well. So we're trying to do some more around that. It's hard to get the time because like we're a team of 5, but we're trying to build in like sort of like case studies, guides for people in HR and L&D as how they can get the most out of like employee engagement when they're learning. So hopefully they read that, sort of like learn a little bit about us in the way that's sort of not directly salesy. It's just sort of like showing you what our sort of values are, and then they'll sort of like filter in through that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, our approach to sales is very much, our approach to creating content really is 80% adding value to our audience and 20% directly selling. So most of our marketing efforts revolve around creating valuable content, creating resources, really producing content that you wouldn't be able to find somewhere else, and not just 5 tips to do X that everyone can find, but rather reaching out to researchers, asking for their opinion, collating really valuable information that you wouldn't be able to replicate. So it's the way you sell, it's less about just selling, but more thinking of other creative ways to add value, which in turn lead to sales. So it's a more slow burner approach, I would say.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. I think the new age is content marketing, which is, in a sense, I guess what you create as well. When you're creating something kind of interesting and pretty out of a massive bulk amount of information that's designed to get a point across really quickly, and I guess that's similar to content marketing at its heart. I think the other side of it is people by people, and everybody's talking about the way that millennials work compared to the older generation in terms of more collaborative working, driven by different motives, and I think that's the same as well. People buy personal stories and personal success in business more now than they ever have done.
I think what's changed now is when people have always sort of like bought from people and stuff. The thing is now, like, so there's no point us aiming to be the best learning platform in Leeds or even in the UK, because we're instantly from day one competing globally. So I think the thing is, how do you still have that sort of like relationship with your customer, or at least show them a bit about the company when you might be like 2,000 miles away? So I think podcasts are a great way of doing that, because you have like a fairly natural long form conversation, and long form content on the internet it doesn't exist anywhere else apart from podcasts, like, really. So you can have those sort of like chats, get into talk like this, and then hopefully some people listen to it and like feel that they understand more about it.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think the best entrepreneurs that do it are probably, you've all said it, but it's unique, it's practical, it's relevant content, it adds value, and it resonates with people. And I think resonate being, for me, is that emotional connection around what's in it for me. And why does this apply to me? Why will this save me time or make life easier, or whatever it might be for me? But there's a real emotional connection to that.
Well, Ben talked briefly before about the kind of the quote-unquote millennial approach versus, maybe the older generation's approach to marketing and in the modern day. How have you seen, as working with entrepreneurs over the years, do you think it's something that's evolved, or do the central tenets kind of always been pretty much the same?
I think social media is the big change, isn't it? It's, I think it's so easy, access is so easy. The internet's so easy to access. Internet's so easy to access. I think there's no barriers to entry. There's nothing like what it used to be. You don't have to spend a huge amount of money on marketing if you can find the right channels and the right way to engage your customers. And a lot of my colleagues around the table have talked about how they've done that, and that can range from, I think some of you have said you've been out there and walked the streets and spoke to potential clients about what they're looking for and what the offering needs to be, versus research panels, versus social media interaction, and questionnaires around how what's valuable to them. So I do think it's a lot easier to do things like that now as an entrepreneur. I think you can get really quite fast, accurate results as well. You don't have to wait a long time. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get that information or that validation, and then you can test and learn and validate and iterate. And I think that speed is really important as well.
That is the thing there probably are like central tenets of marketing that have not changed, but the thing that has changed, I think, is one, the amount of things competing for your attention, just with, like you say, no barriers to entry. And then I think marketing as a role must have changed dramatically over the last 5 years, because now it's a very data-driven, lean startup sort of focused thing. So it's about how much data can you get in, how fast can you improve on that, A/B tests and all the rest of it. So a lot of marketing roles now are about, it's basically like a data analysis job, because you're running maybe 10 different ads across 10 different segments, and you need to apply some sort of learnings onto that. There's a creative side to it, stuff as well, but increasingly it's just becoming this data-driven thing, especially online.
Yeah, whenever I hear you talk about A/B testing, marketing, ads, things like that, I find it very overwhelming and daunting, that conversation, because my whole approach to marketing is extra tailored and extra personalized. And it's
you can
because
do that, but with data.
Yeah, I guess so. You could. Yeah, I guess also because we're a service business, and because the kind of product and the kind of service that we offer is very premium, and so people are not going to spend that kind of money with us based on a Facebook ad. So it's really about kind of building that relationship with the customer.
Yeah, I think that's true. So for Facebook ad, we've not ran sort of social ads like for a while. We're just experimenting with some like specific B2B acquisition channels now. It's probably going to cost us about £500 to get a lead, because similar to you, it's sort of like high value sort of stuff. What I've heard people suggesting on Facebook ads is don't try and put an ad out by our service now. Offer like a webinar or something like that. Build up like a mailing list, so you just sort of building that sort of like nurturing pipeline of people who will potentially be interested in your idea at some point, but might not be actively looking for it now.
Right. And I guess it comes back to this community point, right? Of like building this community around your service or around your product. You know, it doesn't have to be 1 million people that are faceless and are probably not interested in your product.
Someone described it to me once at a NatWest training thing, actually, or an RBS one. It was about when you're networking and doing all this sort of thing, and you're doing your 30-second pitch and giving your business card. You're trying to create dots. So you're trying to create a network of people around you who know enough about what you do that when they go out and meet people, they can potentially think, oh, I was speaking to someone yesterday who does this, and you're sort of raising your profile exponentially if you can do that. And I get emails in every so often. Like, I think our second big client was from someone that I used to work with who just knew that Synap was a question-based sort of like tool, and put us in touch, and now they're like one of our biggest sort of client, one of our cornerstone clients last year.
I think for us it's very much about the 4 points of contact. A lot of people say that it takes 4 occasions of somebody noticing your product or brand or service before they consider or will go for it. So for us, social media is a support tool. Sure. It's not a selling tool, because we've experimented with tens of hundreds of A/B tests on Facebook to push people to our online shop with not amazing results. You know, it's all right. It allows people to test the product if they've not got stockists nearby. But for us, it's mainly about resonating with the customer, showing that the product fits into a similar lifestyle that they lead or they wish to lead. And when they see it for that 4th time, it might be in a shop. And that's the point when they think, I'll try that. So yeah,
that makes sense. I know that works for me when I see things. It takes me a couple of times by the time it's following me around on Facebook and a couple of other things.
In a rather creepy way.
Yeah.
Everywhere you click.
It can be creepy when it's something you don't want. When it's sort of like well targeted and it's like you make a mental note. That sounds quite cool. I know a little bit about what it does. I just don't need it right now. Yeah. It's sort of like a handy reminder, but obviously you don't want to creep people out too much. Yeah.
I do think. I mean, I think customers are the best people to tell your story for you. So you talked about, making it personal and creating those wonderful stories that people can share. And I think those testimonials and having customers tell that story for you of their experience is much more powerful than anything.
Yeah, one of the things we've just launched recently, which will be going out in the next month, is an Instagram and YouTube series called Behind the Bartender. Which sounds a bit weird, but it might also be called Behind the Bar. But it mainly focuses around telling the story of the people in the industry that make the drinks and have the creative spark that are often overlooked and not shone on. And at the end of the day, they're our customers. Although the end consumer is the one buying the cocktail, the people that care about our product in the cocktail market are the bartenders and the general managers. And to have their story told to their own community. It helps sales, but it's just another kind of what you were saying, Mihaela, about providing good content for people and personalising it.
But that's a wonderful example, though, Ben, of how much to be able to demonstrate how much love, care, and attention goes into producing that cocktail. So
yeah, exactly,
and then personalising it for the customer. So I think that helps bring that to life, actually.
Yeah, we go into kind of, their inspiration for, if it's a bar owner, so their inspiration for their bar, what made them get into the industry, what's their inspiration for the cocktails, whether it's a bartender, why did they get into the industry, what type of drinks do they like making, and what inspires them to create new drinks, which is like I said, it's just something that is not seen in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other kind of methods that you use other than kind of creating kind of great storytelling content to kind of turn maybe a customer into like a brand advocate and kind of make that relationship a little bit deeper and more of a long-term relationship?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a method as such, but I think one of the unique things that you can offer as a small business, and one of the things that really helped us last year was you're competing with like much bigger players and stuff like that, so you're sort of at a disadvantage from the get-go. But what you can offer that sort of other companies can't is, look, we're building this product now. You'll be one of our first clients. That means you'll get like absolute sort of like platinum grade treatment, and we'll come down to visit and we'll do focus groups. And if there's something that's not quite right, let us know and we'll fix it for you the next day, or we'll add in a whole new module if that's what you want. So like for our first few clients, like I don't touch wood and all the rest of it, I don't think they're leaving us anytime soon, because we've given them such a really great service, and we've ended up building something that is in line with the overall product vision that we wanted to have, but it's also like quite customized to their specific needs as well. So I think being able to offer, in our case, like the product that we've got, but then also like the services around that, means that they've gotten the best of both worlds, because they've basically got a custom built sort of like system at the price of an off the hook product.
In our case, it was about, again, building relationships with customers in offline rather than online. So when we celebrated our 1-year anniversary of the business, we invited 30 of our clients, and we had a celebration here in the centre of Leeds. Had just an opportunity to get to know each other better, provide networking opportunities between themselves. Had a raffle, a prize where we actually offered some locally sourced product, and Artemis was one of our sponsors, which we were very lucky to have. And just kind of have a kind of no pressures evening where, you know, you're in the same room with these people and you're just giving back to them and saying thank you and commemorating a really big milestone for the business, making them feel part of the community on a personal level, and not really talking about business. So again, that was one of the ways in which we deepened that relationship with our key clients, and opened that door and that dialogue with them.
Yeah, for us, there's two angles to it. It's whether you're trying to create brand advocates or to create kind of like subliminal selling agents. So you can turn customers into agents by offering incentives for referrals. So you might not think it with us being a product business, but any bartenders that take the product on, or general managers, there's quite a few businesses where we say if they can recommend our product to someone and they take it on, we'll give them 10% off the next order. It's a very simple way of doing it, but that can sometimes appear a bit more, I don't know if brutal is the right word, but it's a bit more kind of like salesy and hard sell to people.
People want to feel like they're offering someone access to this like secret community sort of thing, and not that they're doing sales for you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it would work well for you guys, because it's presumably like local, so like produce and this story behind it and stuff like that. So it's like you can give your friend this invite, sort of thing. Yeah,
I mean, and the other side of it is that you can create brand advocates by just offering an amazing service, which is down to what a lot of you have said. For us, it's about when somebody has a problem, they speak to a person. If somebody rings up the business, they're speaking to one of a team of 3 that knows everything about every single product, and can give them advice, as well as knows what holiday that customer went on 3 weeks ago. And it's just about that personal relationship, and that builds rapport with the customer, which they then see you as a good egg, and are happy to talk to their friends about you, and talk to fellow business people.
And we're starting to specialise our roles a bit now. So we sometimes a client ends up coming through to the wrong sort of person, just because they're used to sort of like speaking to the first person that comes to mind. But I just make a point of not passing them on or saying, oh no, go and contact this person by this channel. It's like we'll deal with all of that internally, so they still just don't feel like they're going through multiple layers, even if in the background we're sort of like scrambling to figure out which one's the best place.
That must get harder as a company gets bigger, though. Obviously, the more customers you get, does it become harder to kind of manage that, giving each one that kind of dedicated one-on-one relationship?
Yeah, I think so. I think as a small company, like I say, one of the benefits is that everyone knows everything about the product and stuff like that. But there's a reason why the big companies don't do it like that, because as you do grow, you do need to specialise roles, and that can obviously benefits doing that. But the disadvantage is you lose some of that personal touch. So I think the trick is probably to find a way of growing and systematising what you do without creating too many hurdles and barriers for clients and stuff like that. So, a high value B2B sort of like software company like we are, having an account manager, and then that person's sort of responsible for managing things on behalf of the client and finding the right people in your team to do it, rather than the client being expected to know who to contact for technical, who to go to out of hours, who to contact about just general advice and stuff like that.
Is there a role for incentivization in that, do you think, in terms of like, whether it be a discount or freebies or added value services? Is that something you really go with, or do you prefer to kind of just add value at the customer service level rather than at the kind of incentivization level?
Yeah, no, I think we incentivize. We have a standard sort of discount for anyone who wants to sign like an annual contract with us or a 12-month commitment. So I think that's sort of fairly standard. We try not to discount sort of like too much, or only in sort of like particularly special occasions, like if it's a non-profit or an early stage company or something like that, just because if you're offering discounts regularly on your prices, then that just becomes your regular price, and it just means that you're overcharging your customers who are not asking you for discounts. We've had some good. We're trying to do some more stuff with referrals now, so that worked well for us when we were getting sort of like students in. So we'd offer them a discount and their friends a discount on it as well. We're starting to do it more with sort of like channel partners now, so people who speak to a lot of our potential clients often. Maybe they're doing some consulting. We'll say to them they can have a discount for their clients and offer them something in return. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so for us, I wrote a 32-page guide actually on how to communicate research beyond academia. It's something that took me 2 months to produce. We basically put together all of the conversations that I've had over the last 4 years about communicating research, why bother doing it, how to do it, and kind of offering a simple structure and framework for researchers who want to do it themselves. And that guide is a resource that we offer to our clients, we offer to prospective clients, and it's something that we give for free, and it's something they can take value out of, and it just creates and builds that confidence really. So it's just a resource that we just added on November last year, so it's a very new thing for us, but I've already seen massive return on effort for doing that.
And trust, because I really like it when companies do that. It's like you're basically telling them how they could do it themselves, so that's potentially like a little bit of a risk to you, but then there were some clients who were just always going to do it themselves, but either way people can see that and think, this is what they're doing, and it's just building up that trust that it's not like a black box, you're not trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes. It's here's the process, you can do it yourself, or you can speak to us and we'll save you some time maybe.
Absolutely.
It's quite similar to the kind of personal PR approach as well, to kind of creating a sense that you and your team are experts in your industry, because if you are confident, you can put out a paper that, like you say, tells people pretty much how you do stuff. You're confident in doing that your services are going to be better anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of not really comparable because it's on a very smaller level, but we do a how to brew your own cold brew video just for home consumers to make their own at home, because it's so accessible and easy to do, and it's a great thing to do. People still need a cold brew when they're out and about, and still want to take one that's gonna last longer and at the same time have higher quality coffee and taste better. But by building that kind of personal brand and showing that you are an expert in your own industry, it's similar to what you were saying earlier, James, about the kind of people buying to the founders now, and their story. And again, coming back to the pitching as well, every single personal PR case that you get is like a mini pitch.
Yeah, so I mean, it's weird how that links into sort of almost everything. It's like it's really hard to separate like the founders and the story from the products that you do and stuff like that. So I mean, people want, whether that's they're coming in at it from the guides that you produce or like the way that you pitch and present the business, that personal PR and the company's PR, it all sort of like forms an image of where the company sees itself as.
I think collaboration is really important as well, though. So where you can offer a certain level of expertise and knowledge, and we do this, for example, we partner with a number of national partners like Equifax, Dell Technologies, Pinsent Masons from a legal perspective, Deloitte from an accountancy perspective, Free Agent, and Hiscox from an insurance perspective. So why do we do that? We do that because it creates a money can't buy offering for the entrepreneurs. It provides expertise and knowledge, access to networks and markets in areas that we're not expert in. And I think that all of those areas, you can see why that would be valuable for an entrepreneur who's looking to grow their business and scale, and reach some of that support that can really help them do that. So sometimes it's not always about you providing that expertise and knowledge, sometimes it's about collaborating with other people who can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a small business perspective as well, we might not do websites, or we might not create animations, for example, but we have partners that we have built relationships with, and we're able to refer our clients to trusted partners who can deliver those add-on services that they might need. So it's really, really key.
Yeah, I think that touches on quite an interesting point, because one thing we've come back to a lot is the importance of being a good storyteller for your business. That seems to be a common thread that we've got for this. But not everyone who necessarily wants to set up a business or sell a product is a natural storyteller, or is naturally great at creating rich content on social media, etc. So if you are just somebody who just has a great idea, but doesn't necessarily come from that side of things very well. What can they do? And looking to you, Gordon, maybe more, because you've obviously worked with a lot of entrepreneurs over the years. What advice do you give and guidance do you give to people who maybe don't naturally sit in that kind of area to be able to kind of sell themselves and build that relationship with customers if it's not something that comes particularly naturally to them?
That's something that we would support them with. So there are people out there who do that exceptionally well. I think sometimes you don't have to have that knowledge yourself. So we don't profess to have all of that knowledge as a bank or for our customers or within the hubs themselves, but we know people who do. And that's the important part of knowing when to refer and when to bring in that partner or that area of collaboration that can really truly help that entrepreneur at that point in time, whether it's at a scaling point or whether it's just at startup level, and then I guess understanding what it is they really need and delivering that support. I think you could also go down the route of access to mentors are really important there too. So whether that's entrepreneurs that have been there, done it and wore the t-shirt, and are serial entrepreneurs and could really learn and teach other entrepreneurs from their experience, or whether it's just experts in their fields. That's something that we try and facilitate, and I think that's the right word for us here. It's about facilitating those introductions within the hubs, for example, for our entrepreneurs, not necessarily providing that expertise and knowledge ourselves. And I'm pretty sure my colleagues around the table will do that too.
I think it can be really overwhelming if you're just starting out to label yourself as entrepreneur or a storyteller, or all these nouns of what you are now. And I'm not an employee now, I'm an entrepreneur, I have my own business. So I think instead of getting hung up on those labels, really everyone is a storyteller. Everyone can tell why they're doing what they're doing and how they came about to doing that and who did they meet that inspired them. So those are elements of the story, but you wouldn't necessarily think of them as I'm telling my story. It's just answering the question of why you're doing what you're doing. And not focusing on the label of this is a pitch and this is the story.
I think the framework's important for some of those things, as you said earlier. But most people can talk about what they love doing, what they're good at doing, why they're doing it, and what their purpose is. So I think if you can articulate that, then that's a good place to start.
Yeah. No, I would completely agree. I mean, there's two sides to it. You can do it not the easy way, but one of the recommended ways, which is get a sales co-founder, somebody who's good at sales, who can offer that other side of the business. One of the best things is self-reflection and going into a new business, accepting that at the moment you're not very good at sales, and partnering with somebody who is can be a great head start. But at the same time, I completely agree that even the most tame people, when they're talking about their passion, will be passionate and great, kind of speakers about what they do and what they love and why it's cool. And even to get salespeople on board, you have to be able to pitch your business to them to get them involved. So it's probably something you learn, but if you're passionate about your business at the start, then it flows easy, I'd say. Yeah,
definitely. I think you sort of learn by doing as well. So I remember years ago, people sat me down and asked these really difficult questions, like what's your vision and how do you want to do X, Y, Z, and all these things that seem really sort of simple now, or I felt you've made sort of, God, of course I should know that. I should know where I want the business to be in 5 years, but you don't. But I think the reason people ask you those questions are because you just to plant a seed that you need to sort of think about it, and I think you don't really have an idea until you can articulate it in one form or the other. That doesn't need to mean you pitch it in front of 100 people. You might be nervous, that might not be your sort of thing, but you need to be able to get it out in some written or verbal format so that you've then got your idea that you can then give to other people. And I think in terms of mentors and stuff, that one of the big things that they do is help to tease that out of you, and I'm still improving it, but it took years to the point where I could sort of concisely get the business idea down into 60 seconds, partially because the idea changes so much that by the time you've figured out one thing, something else changes. So it's just an ongoing process.
And I think you're right, and I think when that narrative's right, James, and you've got that messaging right within your business or your team or your company, whatever it might be, and you can, and other people within that business or your team can articulate that, then you're starting to get it right.
Yeah.
They can articulate it the way you would or the way everybody would, and with the same passion.
Yeah.
Then the customer really feels the benefit.
Yeah,
of
and
that.
you can feel it. It's the team's being in harmony, and everyone's got this sort of singular goal.
Everybody's on message.
It's really nice.
Which aspects did you guys, as kind of startups, find the most challenging in terms of building those kind of customer relationships, and how did you utilise either the entrepreneur program or any other kind of resources to kind of improve and get better?
I would personally say the most difficult part is getting the customers to tell the truth about your product. A lot of people are very obviously sensitive. You don't want to hurt people's feelings generally in business. A lot of the time you'll lose a customer before they tell you what's wrong. So often it's a case of, it's kind of like A/B testing, getting feedback all the time, and just kind of always trying to improve your service. But yeah, I would say the most difficult part is keeping on top of all the customers and making sure they're all happy.
I think for sort of like finding the right balance between this sort of like coming in and offering sort of like everything and like unlimited stuff to your clients, and then like actually then having enough time that you can still take on other clients and you don't just become like the internal tech team for the first 3 clients that you've got. So it's something that we've learned like a lot about, and we know now, you know, how long things should take, what we can reasonably offer and commit to, and what would be considered like an extra charge, or what's just something that we're not willing to adjust our product roadmap for and they'd be better off integrating with.
Yeah, I think for us as well is that balance between being flexible and reasonable with, for example, changes, or, you know, adjusting to your customers' needs and being seen as, you know, offering excellent customer service and being flexible, while at the same time realizing you do have a contract, there were some specifications, and being able to say, okay, actually this now falls outside of the scope of the work. And it's always a difficult conversation to have, and it's just the one that you, and now obviously we are protected by having a contract, and obviously that is very, very important. But I think always navigating those challenging situations that can arise out of managing expectations and also being flexible.
Would you say there's a such thing as a wrong type of customer, especially when you're starting out? Because I think you said earlier that like it's just a bonus to get anyone interested when you're first starting out. But is there such a thing as a wrong type of customer? And if so, how do you identify them and kind of avoid attracting them in the future?
I think it's always a bonus to speak to people. I think there is such a thing as a wrong customer, like on both sides of it. There can be a wrong customer for you. For example, working with corporates versus working with startups are very different, and they each have their own challenges. So I've seen a lot of good companies who really do want to work with startups, but they're used to working with corporates. And one of the big differences in the two is corporates will come in with a spec and a plan and a delivery schedule and all the rest of it. Startups have, generally speaking, no idea what they want, or if they do have an idea what they want, it's going to change so many different times, so it just requires a very different way of working. So depending on how specialised you are in working with one or the other, it can be the wrong one. I think on the other side of that, you can take on a corporate client too early, before your systems are stable enough, and you don't want your first big sort of case study to be a failure, because that could just destroy you. So you might not want to take on something too big and too critical too early.
So from my point of view, it's about what kind of services do you offer. So from my perspective, as a research communication company, we focus on creating accessible and visual summaries based on long research reports, and that takes the form of 3 different packages that we outline and articulate on our website with associated costs and deliverables. So on the one hand, by having those up there and being transparent about what we offer and for how much we offer it, we immediately sift through the customers that do not find that suitable for them. So, if you will, the way you call them bad customers, although, bad seems to be a strong word. But then on the other hand...
I said wrong, but...
It's a wrong customer.
Wrong customer, unsuitable customer.
Yes.
But on the other hand, the kind of customer who wants you to do everything and wants you to deliver on all these different things, and then it's just about making sure that you're making it very clear the kinds of things that you can do for them, and sticking to your guns as much as possible while making it feasible for you to stay in business. So that's the kind of 2 different types of customers that I could think of that would be wrong for our service business.
I think timing's, I agree with both of you actually. I think also timing's important. I think you're right what you said there. I think you can't be all things to all customers or people. Sometimes entrepreneurs try to do that, and I think you're right. Be clear on what you do brilliantly well, but also be clear on what you don't do or can't do. I think that's a really good point that you made. And sometimes the tendency is to say yes continually and try and find a way. But actually when you're not ready yet to do that, and that can be the wrong time for that client or customer for that scale. And I guess if you're not ready yet, then it should either be a no or a not yet, because it can then lead to a situation where you just don't deliver on your promises, as you said, James, and that can be a real disaster, especially, as James said, if it's a big contract, big corporate client you're trying to impress or win over. If it goes wrong really early doors, then that could be really difficult.
Conversely as well, I think saying no or not yet when there's potentially money on the line for you is a really great way of building trust. the irony is it's with someone who you can't work with at that time. But I've had people like agencies that we've been looking to use, and I explain what it is, and they go, look, we love the idea, but we're more B2C focused. We don't think we're the right one for you. Let me put you in touch with someone. I'm just like, wow, I was going to give this guy $5,000 and he's just turned it down because he doesn't think they'll be able to do a really good job for us. So then when we changed our business model, I phoned them back, and now we're working together. But I just have 100% trust for that company by the fact they turned something down that they could have just taken and then blamed us when the ads weren't performing.
I would completely agree. I think there's definitely wrong customers for the business out there, and I would actually say it's a really interesting point what you've just raised, James, that I think as a startup it's extremely difficult to say no. Because you are always looking for opportunities, and you want to be super flexible to take whatever opportunity. I think because the product, like with us, your product that you're going with at the start isn't always the correct product, so you have to have an air of trial and error.
I guess we'll wrap up with a positive note. So do you have any examples of some of the best or most unexpected ways in which you've kind of attracted a long-term customer?
Yeah. Let's go first. Yeah. So I was in the early stage of my business, and it was just me and a part-time production guy helping me out. And we received an email into the info account from just a completely random consultancy address, basically asking for a quote on our Nitro system that we'd released 1 or 2 months ago. Very vague, wouldn't say who they were working with. And that consultancy company ended up working for basically what is now our best customer and does about 35% of revenue, just because they were basically consulting for this kind of chain that was opening up, that wanted an offering, didn't have time to look into it themselves. And yeah, it just turned out to be literally the best thing we ever applied to. But we get so many emails like that come in now that you could just be like, this is just ridiculous. For instance, we've dealt with a lot of people in the UAE and Dubai that go all the way to pretty much completion and then go silent. But no matter how many times that happens, you've still got to keep doing it for the one that might come off.
My story relates to what James was saying earlier about telling people enough about your business they can tell other people. So that happened to me was when I was on this entrepreneurship program in London called the New Entrepreneurs Foundation, and we were a cohort of 35 entrepreneurs, and obviously we're pitching in front of each other, and one of the entrepreneurs said, I think my dad could be of interest to you, or like what my dad does. And it was one of these vague email introductions, like, this is my dad who works at so-and-so, and this is Mihaela, who's my colleague. Turns out the dad was the managing director of the marketing division of this massive organization called WIG, that basically do evaluation reports and work with DFID. So massive organization. And that connection led to a really, really fruitful collaboration from us, from an introduction to his dad, which, I was very, very grateful for.
Since being at the NatWest Hub, actually, I think because a lot of the sort of the tenants and the entrepreneurs here are doing something around training, or there's a potential training component to it. So we're speaking to about like 5 or 6 different early stage companies at the moment, and that's helped us realise that we needed to add in like a startup pricing tier and stuff like that. And we're demoing, piloting with a couple of them now. So that's just been, I wasn't really expecting it. Like, so I was expecting coming on the programme for some sort of like mentorship, and then to sort of like speak to other people around, but I didn't realise there'd be so many there who had a need for what we were doing, so that was unexpected and pleasant.
I think probably the best examples I can think of are where we've actually started with a customer complaint, turned it round and told them about what we do to support entrepreneurs and offer them a place themselves in the hub, and then supported their business and helped them scale. So we've got a few examples of that, and examples where we've across the bank, we've almost lost a piece of business, and then the relationship manager begins to talk a wee bit about what we do in the entrepreneurship team, and what we specifically do in the hubs, and suddenly you've turned a pretty difficult situation around, because one of my biggest challenges is that we're still the best kept secret. So I need to make sure that more and more people know about what we're doing to support entrepreneurs, and specifically the proposition that we offer in our hubs. But when you get that opportunity to talk about it and articulate what we do and explain the benefits and explain why it's customer led, you get a lot of people who become become advocates of it, even internally. And as a result of that, actually they've used that as a tender example within a tender document and won more business. So I think, turning around a customer complaint, bringing the customer or entrepreneur at the hub, really adding value and wowing them to the point where they've done so much more business with the bank. Or indeed just supporting our colleagues out there that are using what we do to to win new customers.
Thanks very much, guys. That's been a really interesting discussion. And if our listeners want to find a little bit more about you guys and your businesses, where can they find you?
So Synap is business.synap.ac, at Synap on Twitter, and I'm at Gupta_James on Twitter as well.
So for us, for Artemis, probably the most active account is Instagram. So we've got 2 accounts, which is Artemis Brew and Artemis Cocktails. You'll find a load of interesting content on there, so head on and have a look.
Yeah, so we're on Twitter at Research Retold. We have an online community of researchers, and we'd welcome you to join us.
So me personally, at Gordon Merrilees on Twitter, but also on LinkedIn.
And this podcast has been brought to you by Element 14, the world's largest online community for engineers, makers and tech professionals. Please visit element14.com/community for more information. And we'll be back next month with another discussion. So thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.